Welcome into Off the Hook Sports. I am your host, Caleb Calhoun. We have got a good bit to bring to you today involving the coaches poll that is out. We're going to talk a few things related to the coaches poll that'll be interesting that I think you guys will want to hear about. We also have Arion Carter is on Bruce Feldman's freak list. What does that mean? Could Arion Carter be a more generational athlete than even James Pierce? We'll make that case. Bank on it. And we also have collective bargaining. Power 4 general managers are talking in closed-door meetings about collective bargaining. That'll be what the H. We're going to talk about what that means going forward. So hit that like or subscribe. Hit that like and subscribe button, Ring the bell, turn on your notifications. We are brought to you by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Play to win. T. Scott Jones, why settle? banksandjones.com. Also, the show is broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. Let's get rolling with today's tough question, and it is this. Tennessee football has come in at number 18 in the coaches poll, which was released on Monday for 2025. Is that too high, too low, or just right? You guys vote on the message board now. Too high, too low, just right. Now, let me talk about how Tennessee ended the season last year, to be fair. All right. Tennessee ended last season with a 10-3 record, a blowout loss to Ohio State in the first round of the college football playoff, finished number 8 in the coaches poll, number 9 in the AP poll. Now, their only quality win on the year turned out to be Alabama, who finished number 17 in both polls. They didn't have any other top 25 wins on the entire year. It was not an impressive 10-3 record for Tennessee, to be fair. They got into the college football playoff on a much easier schedule than we even thought at the beginning of the season, which was reason for lack of faith in them. In the offseason, they lost 9 starters on offense, including their quarterback, who transferred. They also lost their best overall player on defense, NFL-wise, in James Pierce. And their best returning player is now hurt. So regardless of what you think and what you know about Tennessee on the front end and from covering them the way I might know them, it is beyond fair to say, honestly, that this Tennessee football team probably was expected to take a major step back from last year because of all of those issues. With that in mind, I don't mind them being, despite finishing last year number 8, I don't mind them being close to number 18 this year. And as we know, Tennessee last year, like I said, they only played 3 ranked teams, one in the postseason, by the way, in Ohio State. It was only Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State were the only ranked teams they played that finished the season ranked, is what I mean, that turned out to actually be quality opponents. They still got a bad loss on the resume last year. And this year, so far as we're looking at, they have to play at least 3 ranked teams this year, potentially 4. They have to play 3 teams that finished last year in the top 25 in the regular season. They only played 2 teams last year in the regular season who ended up finishing last year in the top 25. Now, they do play 3 teams this year who are in the preseason top 25 this year. That's not the same as the 3 last year that finished, because Syracuse is not in the top 25. Florida is. We will get to Florida. I know there's a lot of anger on that. However, taking all that into account, I think putting Tennessee at number 18 is fine and totally understandable. I think that's totally understandable, totally fair. I'm all on board with it. As far as things go with teams Tennessee is ahead of, I think there's a strong case to put some of those teams ahead of Tennessee. I'm just going to be honest with you. You could maybe make the case they're lower. Indiana, no, I'm not going to go there. Kurt Cignetti, I get the situation they're in, but they played such a bad schedule last year. They were barely a Power 5 team, in my opinion. But Kansas State, Iowa State, I think they belong in the top 25, but it's fine that Tennessee's ahead of them. Texas A&M, look, I'm going to be honest. Texas A&M was under a first-year head coach, and Mike Elko went 8-5. I actually think they're going to take a huge leap forward. I would have put Texas A&M ahead of Tennessee this year. I would have. They were 8-5. Again, they were 8-5 last year, and that was Mike Elko's first season. And I genuinely would have put Texas A&M ahead of Tennessee. I know people think I'm crazy, but I would have. Texas Tech, I might have put Texas Tech ahead of Tennessee. Texas Tech has bought a lot of talent. Okay, a lot of people don't realize this, but they've bought a ton of talent in the offseason. It's kind of one of the underrated things they did, and they went 8-5 under Joey McGuire last year. I might have considered putting Texas Tech ahead of Tennessee. Unranked teams that could have the case. You could make the case for Missouri, who is 27th in the Coaches Poll based on the rankings. You could make a strong case for Oklahoma's 26th. I don't think you can make a case for Oklahoma based on what happened last year. I just don't think that's a thing. But you could definitely make a case for Missouri, given how they've finished the season and the talent they have coming back. So with all that said, Tennessee, are they too high, too low, or just right in the coaches poll? While I have made the case for teams to be ahead of them that are behind them, I still think it's just right. And the biggest reason I think it's just right is there are teams I think they should be ahead of, which I'll get to later. But to just on the surface, I am totally fine with Tennessee being at number 18. I think the fact that there's so many questions about Tennessee this year, particularly at quarterback, all the changes on offense, who's going to be the star on defense, were they really as good as their record indicated last year? The fact that they even start the year in the top 25 is a huge testament to the program Josh Heupel has built in year 5. This would not be a team that would be a perennial top 20. That means that they were a perennial top 25 team to enter the year. It's a default assumption they belong in the top 25. That has not been the case for Tennessee for a long time. That alone is a huge testament to the program Josh Heupel has built to this point. Because remember, the last time that was the case was, I would say, probably 2017. Tennessee was in the top 25 under Butch Jones. They barely squeaked in at the start of the year. And that was because they'd had back-to-back top 25 years and the brand name put them there. But then they totally wet the bed and went 4-8 the next year and had 3 bad years. Josh Heupel came in. The hype completely fell apart, hence the reason why, even despite going 7-6 in 2021 and a chance at history in 2022, which I wrote about in 2021, believe it or not, before the legendary 2022 season, they still couldn't put Tennessee in the top 25. So putting Tennessee at number 18 is a testament in year 5 to where the program has been built. But again, that's not the goal of where Tennessee wants to be year in and year out. Today's tough question brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The poll question up. Tennessee, are they too high, too low, or just right in the top 25 rankings? Nobody is saying too high. 38% are saying too low. 62% are saying just right. I lean to just right to too high, honestly. I don't think they're too low. I think this is understandable why they're where they're at. I get thinking that they will be better, but the coaches poll can only go based on evidence up in front of them. And the evidence in front of them is that there's no way you would say that they should be higher than this. Derek has a great point. This new Tennessee identity, running the ball in defense, literally what Jeremy Pruitt wanted to be. That is true. That's a hilarious point, Derek, because everybody hired Heupel for offense. Now, David brings up the point that Florida State threw money at NIL and went 2-10, so Texas Tech could do the same. Very true. Very true. There was a culture of Florida State of quitting on everything after the way the previous season went, though, and Mike Norvell just never got it back. So, I actually lean more towards Adam's point, which is Texas Tech should take over the Big 12 with the amount of money they're spending. Very true. Take over the Big 12. General Ursa says Tennessee's averaged 10 wins a season for the past 3 years. Maybe 18 is too low. That is true, General Ursa, and they haven't had fewer than 9 because they did have 9 in 2023, but 9-4 in 2023. Don't forget this, that was only enough for them to finish number 17 in both polls. And the schedule last year, I mean, we're underselling how easy that schedule was. That was a really easy schedule. And with that in mind, I just can't bring myself to say that Tennessee, I can't bring myself to say that Tennessee did belongs any higher than where they are. So we're gonna have to see how that happens. Now, Adam, with a great question, can the ACC become watchable now between Clemson, UNC, Miami, and SMU, especially with Club Nick? Clemson could be a top 10 worthy team. That's a very good point. You are right about that, and I'm going to talk about where Clemson is in a little bit, but that is a very, very good question going forward. Now, as far as how things are working with Tennessee, now looking at their schedule, they play 3 teams in the top 25 ahead of them. The usual suspects: Georgia at number 4, Alabama at number 8, Florida at number 17. Also, teams they play that are receiving votes in the top 25, though. Oklahoma is receiving votes, who Tennessee plays. Not just Oklahoma, though. Arkansas is actually receiving votes, believe it or not. And Vanderbilt is receiving votes. So Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt are all receiving votes. So and Syracuse. And Syracuse is receiving votes. So there's 7 teams that Tennessee's playing that are receiving votes, despite only 3 teams in the top 25. And this is what sometimes you talk about with the SEC. The SEC schedules are deceptively hard, and Tennessee represents that. Last year, I just talked about the quality wins opponent because they beat Alabama, and that was their best win. One of the things that's not talked about, though, in SEC play is not just the top 25 teams you beat. It's the number week in and week out of 6 to 7 to 8 win teams that could steal you, that could upset you on any given Saturday. It's the number of those teams you play. That's really what separates the SEC from the Big Ten. It's not the quality wins at the top with the top 10, top 15 wins. It's the fringe top 25 teams, and the number of those teams in the SEC is far greater than the number of those in the Big Ten. And that's where the schedule strength starts to look a heck of a lot harder. That's why all the metrics and the formulas, and why the SEC's 4 formula, prove the SEC teams typically play a much harder schedule. If you just look at schedule strength based on top quality teams, you're not looking at it right. You have to look at schedule strength based on how many, yes, top quality teams you play, but also how many not cupcakes do you play, because there is a huge gap between top quality and cupcakes. And we're talking about, again, those bowl eligible, bowl caliber teams, or teams that may just miss a bowl game in the 5 to 8 win range. And just to give you guys that are Power 5 teams on top of that, because just to give you guys an example, Indiana last year, we talk about how easy their schedule was. It was easier than it even looks on the surface, because it's easy enough given the fact that the only quality team they played last year was Ohio State, and they lost 38-15. But more importantly than that, Indiana did not play their 3 non-conference games. One was against a Division II school, Western Illinois, that went 4-8. Another one was FIU, which went 4-8, and then another one was against Charlotte, which went 5-7. So they didn't play any Power 5 non-conference teams, and all the teams they did play had losing records. Beyond that, UCLA they played went 5-7. Maryland they played went 4-8. Northwestern they played went 4-8. Do you guys see a pattern here? Nebraska and Washington both did have winning records. Both did make bowl games, but Michigan State they played went 5-7, and then Purdue they played went 1-11. So we're talking Purdue, Michigan State, Northwestern, Maryland, and UCLA. 5 of their 9 Big Ten games were against teams that finished with losing records, along with their 3 non-conference games, all against non-Power 5 schools. That's 8 games against teams that finished with losing records in a 12-game season. Meanwhile, when you talk about Tennessee, yes, this is where polls can skew things a lot. While they only beat 1 team all year to finish the season in the top 25 in Alabama, some of the teams they did beat, NC State did go 6-6 during the regular season. Oklahoma went 6-6. Now they both finished 6-7, but they did at least go 6-6. Arkansas finished the year 7-6. Florida they beat, finished the year 8-5. And then Vanderbilt, as we know, finished the year 7-6. So they beat a bunch of 7-6 caliber teams, which stand out more than 5-7, 4-8. That's where schedule strength is such a huge difference. And the coaches poll and the AP poll, the problem with polling is it can't quantify those unranked teams that finish with winning records, bowl caliber, and fringe cusp top 25 programs. I think that's a big deal. Now, Unsung is saying Indiana beat Michigan, Michigan beat Alabama. Okay, we can do circular logic all day on that. This is what I mean. You have to go on a week in, week out basis, and week in, week out, Indiana had cupcakes. It wasn't just the lack of quality teams they played at the top. Portions of the program brought to you by Chattanooga Mortgage. Congratulations, your home search just got easier. Buying a home in Chattanooga has never been easier. Chat with 2tsmortgage.com, chatwith2tsmortgage.com. When we come back, we're going to talk about the most egregious coaches poll rankings, the most egregious ones we think might have been too high. That'll be 4 down. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the hook sports.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem?
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service rent?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Are you ready to get strong? At NFC, we offer top-notch weight training and functional fitness, so you can build strength and improve your performance. Join today at nfc1.com or stop by any one of our 7 East Tennessee locations.
Welcome back to the program. Hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications. We continue our coverage of the coaches poll with the most egregiously high rankings. Multiple teams came in at way too high in the 2025 preseason coaches poll, given what they have proven and what they did last year. But who are those teams? Well, that'll be 4 downs, and it's brought to you by Cooper Mays. Cooper Mays tells you all, well, it's actually brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. But it's also brought to you by Cooper Mays, who asks you all to hit like and subscribe because that's just the kind of guy Cooper Mays is. Now, these teams that we're going to go through, it's not just 4 teams, but we're going to separate them into 4 categories as we play 4 downs because it's ridiculous where some of these teams are coming in the rankings. So once again, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell, turn on your notifications, leave a comment, and let's get rolling with the egregiously high rankings. And we start with who's number 1. Coop here, first down. Texas at number 1. What do we think about that? I think this is a complete and utter joke. Not that I don't believe in Arch Manning. I am a fan of Arch Manning, but I don't understand the hype behind Texas. This is absolutely ridiculous. Texas beat one team all year to finish the season in the top 25. That one team was Clemson. Now, kudos to them for beating Clemson. And they beat him at home. I'm sorry, they beat 2 because they didn't beat Arizona State. But they really only beat 1 because they needed a horrible targeting call at the end, or non-targeting call, to beat Arizona State. They got a ton of help from the officials. Texas got away with horrible officiating to beat Arizona State. So their best win that was not tainted, their only quality win last year that was not tainted, was Clemson. They played Georgia twice, lost one of the times in which Georgia had a backup quarterback who was not cut out for the moment if you watched him in the college football playoff last year. They barely beat Vanderbilt. Oh, they blew out Oklahoma. I'm so impressed. They blew out Michigan. I'm so impressed. Two really bad teams. And they needed 2 overtimes to beat Arizona State. Then they go and play Ohio State, and they quite honestly didn't look any better than Tennessee did against Ohio State, even if it didn't show up the same way on the scoreboard. Taking all that into account, Texas being number 1 is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not understanding this. I do understand the hype behind Arch Manning. I do believe in him, but I don't understand why everybody believes in Steve Sarkisian. He has not proven himself over the years. Texas should not be number 1. Honestly, Ohio State should be number 1. I'm just going to say it. Ohio State should be number 1. I think the way they finished the season strong, I think they're on a mission this year to continue that because of I just think they've proven they're the most talented team. They have the most talent this year. I think Ohio State under Ryan Day has earned the spot to be number 1, even if I don't believe in Ryan Day still as a head coach. I just think he lucked into a really red-hot postseason when they were on a mission after the way they lost to Michigan. Texas, this is just ridiculous. I'm sorry. Texas hasn't proven anything. The brand outweighs the actual production of Texas and Steve Sarkisian to this point. Don't forget this. Before the last 2 years, Steve Sarkisian was 5-7 and 8-5 at Texas. Now, I know his last year in the Big 12, he did beat Alabama on the road and went 12-2, but he lost to Washington in the college football playoff, and Washington was not cut out to be in that playoff. So I'm sorry. Texas, to me, does not belong at number 1, regardless of how much you believe in Arch Manning. I think that is totally egregious. Cooper Mays here, second down. Penn State at number 3 and Clemson at number 6. Okay. These are teams that I just think are too high in general, that I think have a case for the top 10, but are a little too high. Penn State at number 3 is a little too high. Penn State did get 2 quality wins last year in the college football playoff over SMU and Boise State, a group of 5 team and an effective group of 5 team. Their best win in the regular season, far and away, was over Illinois, who did finish 10-3 to their credit under Brett Bielema, but that was at home. And they're really, and honestly, they lost to Ohio State 20-13, and then they lost the Big Ten title game to Oregon. They didn't do enough to show that they belong at number 3. That just seems ridiculous. Also, putting them ahead of Georgia, I think, is insane. Who honestly would, if Penn State and Georgia played on a neutral field right now, the world would favor Georgia. Everybody would favor Georgia. Notre Dame being behind Penn State at number 5, I think, is ridiculous too. Notre Dame beat Penn State in the college football playoff last year. Penn State's done nothing to prove to me that they should be number 3. 5-10, good. Number 3, absolutely ridiculous. Meanwhile, the same with Clemson, to be fair. You know, Clemson is getting a lot of love for how they finished the season last year because it felt like Cade Klubnik finally figured things out. He got on a roll. They're kind of getting the Florida treatment. It's a little overrated, guys. Let's not forget with Cade Klubnik, they lost at home to South Carolina 17-14. Now, you can talk about how South Carolina finished the season strong because of Lenora Sellers. That's not why they beat Clemson, though. They beat Clemson with their defense, shutting down Klubnik. They won 17-14, okay? Then Clemson is coasting off the fact that they beat SMU in the ACC title game. But again, this is just common sense. SMU is not on an elite level. Who's looking at that and thinking that's a top 10 team? They played Texas and they lost pretty significantly. And I just told you guys why I think Texas is overrated. Look, Clemson at number 6 is ridiculous. I think Clemson should be in the 9-10 range. I don't understand how anybody could. I think the Cade Klubnik talk is a little bit similar to the DJ Lagway talk at Florida, if I'm being honest with you. There is some excitement for how both finished the season, but we're overrating their play to a certain degree. Again, they lost at home to South Carolina. I'm just not a believer in that. All right. Tennessee Center Cooper Mays here. Third down. Guys, tell me how much you like my impressions. Tell me if you like it or not, honestly. So I'm just trying to have a little fun. I don't know if you guys agree with me on it, but I'm just seeing here. Okay, so anyways, third down, the egregious ones. Miami in the top 10. I'm sticking with my ACC hate for a minute. Miami had the number 1 draft pick last year in Cam Ward, a player destined and built to run Mario Cristobal's offense. And yet they still lost 3 of their last 4 games. They lost to Georgia Tech 28-23. They lost to Syracuse 42-38. And then they lost to Iowa State 42-41. Now, those were all close losses, but you're also forgetting how lucky they were in the middle of the year because they should have lost to Cal. That was a very lucky win they had on the road. They should have lost to Louisville, another very lucky win. They just played a lot of close games, and they should have lost to Virginia Tech. And had Brent Pry and Justin Wilcox had half a brain cell combined, Virginia Tech and Cal both beat them. So I think we're significantly overrating Miami, and we're forgetting that they had 3 unlucky losses at the end of the year, but they had multiple lucky wins in the middle of the year. And most importantly, you can talk Carson Beck all you want. Look at the offense Mario Cristobal runs. Carson Beck's not cut out to run that offense. Cam Ward was a much better fit for that offense than Carson Beck was. So there's no way you can look at Miami and sit there and say they should be top 10. I just don't think they should be. And looking at who they beat last year, let's also just go down the list of who they beat. Who did they beat that actually finished ranked? Honestly, who they beat? They didn't have to play Clemson, by the way, nor did they have to play SMU, the top 2 teams in the ACC. They played Syracuse. They lost. Non-conference, they did blow out Florida at the beginning of the year. We all knew that was a totally different Florida team than the one later in the year. They beat Florida A&M, Ball State, and South Florida. Miami had 0 top 25 wins on the year. They had 0 quality wins on the year. This team is massively overrated. And this year, when you look at their schedule, things are a lot different because they have to play Notre Dame to start the year. I'm pretty high on Notre Dame winning that game at this point. They also have to visit Syracuse, and I don't think Pitt's going away. Florida State, if they're better, that's going to be a dangerous game for them. Louisville could be, and then they have to visit SMU. So, no, they're not a top 10 team. 15-25, fine. They're not a top 10 team. I think Miami is Miami in the top 10 is absolutely ridiculous. They were massively overrated last year. 4 Downs brought to you by Ted Russell Ford Lincoln. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used, East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. 4th Down coming up next.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
All SEC Center, Cooper Mays here. 4th down. 4th down. The team's ahead of Tennessee. Now, I'm going to say this up front. South Carolina is a team ahead of Tennessee that I have no problem being ahead of Tennessee. South Carolina finished the year ranked number 13. They have a quarterback who's NIL, who was maybe the best quarterback in the SEC, and whose NIL market was the entire reason Nico Iamaleava wanted more money for himself. They beat Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Clemson to close the year. They had more quality wins than Tennessee last year. On top of that, and when I mean more quality wins, they had 2 top 25 wins, and Tennessee only had 1. So there's that fact. But then there's also the fact that, yes, they lost to Alabama. Tennessee beat Alabama. They barely lost to Alabama on the road, 27-25. Tennessee beat Alabama at home. So I have no problem South Carolina being ahead of Tennessee. They finished 9-4. Tennessee did finish 10-3. But South Carolina, by every metric, played a much tougher schedule. And with that in mind, yeah, I got no problem with them. They've won their final 6 games. They were 3-3, finished 9-3. Lenore Sellers, maybe the best player in the SEC. I think he should be a Heisman contender, honestly. And now the one concern with South Carolina, to be fair, is they lose Dowell Loggins. But Mike Shula, guys, is a really good offensive coordinator, particularly with mobile quarterbacks like Lenore Sellers. We forget Mike Shula was the offensive coordinator when Cam Newton won his MVP in 2015. Okay, so this is the type of player that Mike Shula can coach. Got no problem with South Carolina being ahead of Tennessee. None whatsoever. Now, here's the other teams I do have a problem with being ahead of Tennessee. All right, and there's a few. We're going to start with and one more. By the way, I don't have a problem with Illinois being ahead of Tennessee. They did beat South Carolina at the end of the year. They got a couple of quality wins. I think that's a toss-up, a little more of a toss-up, but I don't think Illinois did anything to warrant being totally behind Tennessee. That's not egregious. Here's the egregious ones. Florida at number 17. That's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. There's no reason Florida should be ahead of Tennessee. Yes, Tennessee needed overtime to beat Florida last year. And yes, you may think that Tennessee will lose to Florida this year because they have to go to Gainesville, but that's not what these rankings are about. These rankings are about who you think the best team is. DJ Lagway's finish to last season is being so overrated, so overvalued. It's ridiculous. He threw for 300 yards against Tulane in a meaningless bowl game. He did not play well in November before that, though, with Florida, despite Florida's strong finish to the season. They won those games with defense. They beat Ole Miss and LSU because Ole Miss and LSU played horrible. LSU had quit on the season after losing to Alabama. Ole Miss expended all their mental energy beating Georgia. There's nothing impressive about either of those. So I think that's absolutely ridiculous to have Florida ahead of Tennessee. Another one that's ridiculous to have ahead of Tennessee. SMU at number 16. Okay, I'm sorry, but I know I'm being low on the ACC this year, but the ACC, it's not just that the ACC was bad last year, which it was, but it's the fact that the three best teams in the ACC, SMU, Clemson, and Miami, none of them played each other in the regular season last year. I think we forget that. It was really overrated. And SMU, what happened when they actually had to play somebody worth their salt? They did blow out Pittsburgh, it turned out to be overrated. They did beat Louisville, though, on the road. But then in the postseason, they played Clemson in the ACC title game, lose 34-31, and then they played Penn State and lose 38-10. They also lost to BYU earlier in the year. I don't see any reason to think SMU is as good as their record indicated last year. There's absolutely no proof of that. And because of that, I got to be honest. I think SMU being ahead of Tennessee is absolutely ridiculous. Both suffered blowout playoff losses. Tennessee had a much tougher schedule during the regular season. So Florida, SMU is ridiculous. Another ridiculous one, Ole Miss. Ole Miss went 9-3 last year. They lost to Florida at the end of the year after expending all their capital, beating Georgia. And they lost their quarterback just like Tennessee did. Why in the world should Tennessee be behind Ole Miss? We know Lane Kiffin has shown no ability to keep teams together. I'm sorry. I think it's ridiculous for Ole Miss to be ahead of Tennessee. That's one of my biggest problems. And finally, Michigan at number 14. Now, I get it. Michigan finished. This is all about November last year. The whole Johnny Majors, they remember what you do in November. Michigan finished strong last year, winning their final 3 games, beating Ohio State and Alabama. Alabama was a meaningless bowl game. Ohio State, I think Ohio State took that weekend off, even though it was against Michigan, because they knew that. I know that's a hot take, but I think Ohio State didn't really care to go to the Big Ten title game and was focused on the playoff. Michigan still, we're forgetting, went 8-5 last year. I think they're massively overrated. We can't fully believe in Sharon Moore yet. They didn't earn the right to be ahead of Tennessee. That's just ridiculous. A couple of other ones that I want to address real quick. People are going to ask about Alabama and LSU, particularly how LSU finished last year. LSU is loaded with talent. I understand it. Alabama, I get they have a new quarterback, but that's going to make them better. Jalen Milroe was not a fit for Kalen DeBoer's system. He started him because he had to keep the team together. So I got no problem with that. I don't think anybody's going to debate Oregon being at number 7. And so those are the ones that really stand out to me. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards. HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com, HempHouseChatWith2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. When we come back, we are going to discuss Arian Carter being on Bruce Feldman's freak list. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
It's a new year, a new day, and Ted Russell Lincoln has an exciting new offer to share. Right now, get a 2024 Lincoln Navigator with 0% APR for 72 months and up to $4,000 in bonus cash. Or drive away in a new 2024 Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring with 0% APR for 60 months and up to $4,500 in bonus cash. It's time to get excited about the ride. Come and see what a luxury car experience truly is at Ted Russell Lincoln, Knoxville.
Hello, ma'am. Here to look at that plumbing problem?
Oh boy. Yep, you're gonna need a whole new sink.
If this toilet is no good, you're gonna need a new one ASAP. You are not gonna believe this. You're all out of milk. Have you heard about our service plan?
I need to call Scott's.
Scott's Plumbing, your trusted neighborhood plumber since 1977.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Caleb Calhoun here. Hit that like and subscribe button, and we get rolling and continue with Bruce Feldman's Freaks List. Tennessee has another player on Bruce Feldman's Freaks List entering 2025. That player is Arion Carter. That's right. Arian Carter, returning Tennessee linebacker, is on Bruce Feldman's freak list. These are the 101 freak athletes that he comes out with each year. Carter came in really high, by the way, because Carter came in at number 12. And here's what Bruce Feldman wrote about Arian Carter. He said, quote, "The 6'1", 235-pound junior had a breakout season in 2024, leading a stacked defense with 68 tackles to go with 6.5 tackles for a loss and 1 interception. The junior will linebacker, a team captain, is a more explosive athlete than most running backs. This offseason, Carter, a former 300-meter hurdler in high school, vertical jumped 40.3 inches. He's also hit 21.2 miles per hour on the GPS and benched press 325 pounds. Last year, Arian Carter, James Pierce was on the list. Now, I want to address something real quick because it's on the message board, and it is very true. Cam Selden, the Virginia Tech wide receiver running back athlete type, is number 70. And Feldman writes, quote, "He spent 2 seasons at Tennessee as a reserve running back returnman before coming back to his home state, where he was once the top-ranked prospect in Virginia and won state titles in the 100-meter dash, 200-meter dash, and 4 times 100-meter relay. The 6'1.5", 210-pound Selden is probably the fastest Hokie, having clocked 22.9 miles an hour this offseason. He also broad jumped 10.4 and vertical jumped 36 inches. For those who don't remember, Cam Selden was a backup running back for Tennessee for a couple of years. I think he was a little bit limited in certain ways, and Tennessee had raw talent in Peyton Lewis and Dylan Sampson, so he hit the portal after 2024. But he did average 5 yards a carry when he was on the field last year, and he was a kick returner at times. I still don't think that's a big loss for Tennessee. So the real story, though, is Arian Carter. Remember, like I just told you guys, Arian Carter is on this list. James Pierce was on it last year. So I'm going to say this up front. Bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC, life made better. Bank on it. Arian Carter is going to turn himself into a more beloved draft prospect than James Pierce was last year. Another bank on it. Arian Carter will be the best player on Tennessee's defense by the end of this year. Arian Carter is Tennessee's best linebacker since Gerard Mayo. He will be Tennessee's first All-American linebacker since Kevin Burnett. He is a captain of this team as a junior. He is already a leader of this team. Now remember, guys, this is a young team, but the defense did have a lot of seniors on it, okay? Bryson Easton went to SEC Media Days. Andre Turrentine is a senior. There's multiple other seniors on this roster. Arian Carter, though, of all players, is the one that joined Easton at SEC Media Days. This guy is a smart player. He's an elite player. He's a hard worker, and he's got raw talent, and he's your typical in-state guy who just loves Tennessee, who is going to live up to every bit of hype that surrounds him. I firmly believe that. So bank on it. Brought to you by Commercial Bank. Member FDIC, life made better. Bank on it. Arian Carter will be a superstar for Tennessee this year for all the reasons I just named.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
That's right. Bank on it. Arian Carter will be Tennessee's best player. Now, let me talk about a few of the reasons why. Arian Carter had a couple of things working against him last year that we don't talk about enough. Last year was his first full year starting. The first was he was a bit raw. He had a lot of raw athleticism, and he was great at stopping the run as a result of that. But he struggled a bit in coverage, and he overplayed certain downs. That caused him major problems. So with that in mind, Arian Carter, on that alone, you would say there's some concern. But he was raw. I think he has mastered his abilities and coverage this offseason. That's one of the underrated parts about his game, is that he's truly mastered his abilities and coverage. And I don't think we're talking enough about that. More importantly, he never had full 100% complimentary help at linebacker last year. The first half of the season, he had Keenan Peely, a very smart player, very good player, very reliable player, but who was coming off a season-ending injury from the year before and was likely never 100%, and then suffered another season-ending injury last year. The second half of the season, he had Jeremiah Thielander, who wasn't fully ready to start and was supposed to be the starter this year after another all-season, and was thrown into the role and was a little raw himself. Well, now Thielander has a lot of in-game experience and is now more experienced in season, ready to go this year. That's pressure taking off Arian Carter. Those two things should allow him to be super elite. Now, there are two things that also work against Arian Carter, to be fair. One, without Jermon McCoy 100% healthy, there is a legitimate concern that Arian Carter won't look as good and won't have as much help in coverage last year. And given the fact that he already struggled, even if he's better, he could even look worse, because a lockdown corner who takes away one side of the field, as McCoy did, is a big help. And with him hurt in September, likely not 100%, there are concerns there. Now, on the other side, whatever you think of James Pierce and whatever you think of, the defensive line unit as a whole last year, it was better as far as we know than this year's unit is, because there was more proven depth and James Pierce was a rare talent on the edge. That freed up Tim Banks to do a lot. That combined with Jermon McCoy taking away one side of the field, freed Tim Banks up to do a lot more creative things with the linebackers and made their lives a lot easier. So while Arian Carter has more help at linebacker, while he himself is more experienced, he has less help in the secondary. And I think he's going to have a little bit less help on the defensive line. So those two cancel each other out, but which ones outweigh the others? I think the benefits outweigh the negatives. There's still a chance Tennessee could be as good on the defensive line, particularly if Jordan Ross emerges or David Hobbs on the edge, and they find other defensive tackles who weren't as much of a part of the rotation last year become a part of the rotation this year. There's a huge possibility for that. There's also a possibility of maybe Ricky Gibson does emerge into the same quality of player Jermon McCoy was last year, at which point when Jermon McCoy comes back and is fully healthy and 100%, Tennessee will be even better in the secondary than they were last year. And at that point, Arian Carter could look amazing. That's what I think is going to happen. And as a result, I think Arian Carter will be an All-American this year. He is one of the best. And just to go to the message board, Derek Owen's right. Arian Carter can become an in-state Vol for Life all-time great this year. That is very, very true. And he brings up, who forever remind me of the best recruiting push / win against Saban ever. Yeah, guys, you guys are forgetting this. Nick Saban wanted Arian Carter badly. He wanted Arian Carter really badly. He didn't get him. And that really stands out, okay, that he didn't land Arian Carter. Tennessee was able to get him. Arian Carter, for those who don't know, was from Smyrna, Tennessee, went to Smyrna High School. That is, many people are going to call me out because they're going to say that's part of the Nashville area, which is true. But I want to insist multiple times that I have never said that Nashville players don't pan out. I said they get a little bit overhyped. And also I said Murfreesboro players are underrated. Carter is actually more, even though technically he's in the Nashville metropolitan area, the Murfreesboro area actually gets a little bit more overlooked at times. So that's something worth bringing up. Simply put, I think Arion Carter is going to be a superstar for Tennessee, and him being on Bruce Feldman's freak list does speak a lot to where Tennessee is as a program, and I think that it speaks a lot to where Arion Carter is, and he wasn't just squeaking on it. It's 101 people. He got in at number 12. There's a lot of belief in Arion Carter being a superstar this year. Portions of the program are brought to you by Hound Dogs of Knoxville, champions look good in orange, hdknoxville.com, hdknoxville.com. When we come back, collective bargaining is being talked about for college football. We're going to talk about what that means. Stick with us. 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
A beacon of hope in a world of high prices. Look to the skies, Knoxville. Super savings is here. Ted Russell Ford is East Tennessee's #1 volume Ford dealer. Employee pricing is here. You pay what we pay on all new Ford models. Come see the super dealer today at either Ted Russell Ford location, Parkside Drive, or Kingston Pike.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Community banking is about location and much more. It's about family. We reside in your community. We are a part of your community. At Commercial Bank, our commitment extends beyond the walls of our branches. It's displayed each day in the opportunities we provide, the money we give back, and the time we commit, all to help improve the lives of the people, families, and businesses that make our communities great. Commercial Bank, life made better.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Welcome back to Off the Hook Sports. Portions of the program brought to you by Peak IV Hydration in South Knoxville and Sevierville. Live your life to the fullest. Hydrate, rejuvenate, and elevate your health with Peak IV Hydration. Link is in the chat. Okay. Collective bargaining seems to have taken a step forward for college football athletes. According to reports on Sunday night in Nashville, Pete Nakos of On 3 reports that 23 Power 4 general managers gathered with Jim Cavale and Brandon Copeland of Athletes.org, a players association, to discuss collective bargaining. College athletics is in the midst of a summer upheaval. The Big Ten and SEC have yet to reach an agreement on the future of the college football playoff. The House settlement has ushered in the revenue sharing era, introducing a new enforcement entity that has been met with opposition, plus an executive order signed by Trump. All this being said, basically, as we know, a lot of schools are now hiring general managers to determine how they're going to divvy up their funds and things like that. It's looking like this was a way to try to figure out how athletes can start to collectively bargain. And this is What the H, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. They want to be your jeweler looking for affordable game day jewelry, a Tennessee tradition, rickterryjewelry.com. Now, let's break down what this all means. Okay, so there was a 5-hour meeting with 23 Power 4 general managers, and it was a discussion on moving to a collective bargaining model. All 23 agreed this is the best pathway forward for college sports. Now, some parts of this that are relevant. The group was 100% in favor of removing the portal window during the season and 100% supported performance-based incentives. General managers also voiced their opinions for formal agent certification process and registry. Here's the hard part, and this is actually directly tied to Tennessee because Tennessee Athletic Director Danny White shared a proposal that would establish a national organization to employ and unionize athletes. Everybody that's talking about this way of paying players and figuring out what to do is still ignoring the elephant in the room. And I don't know how many times I can insist this, and I don't know how many times I can say it, and I don't know how many times I can teach people what legally they can and can't do. There is nothing you can do with regards to collective bargaining, with regards to anything like this, to cap the amount of money players make in NIL. We are having a conversation here about 1% of the revenue that actually is being thrown around among players right now compared to what the boosters are throwing around with players in a lot of ways, okay? You can sit there and say, oh, we'll split this $20 million, they'll collectively bargain. Okay, but boosters oftentimes are throwing $40 million at players. Who cares? And you legally, I want to insist this, can't do anything about it. They're trying to do something about it. They're trying to set up something where you have to prove it's a pay for play versus you're doing it for a profit, but you legally can't stop that because of the Sherman Antitrust Act. I'm tired of college football officials. I'm tired of politicians pretending that law doesn't exist. I don't care about any of these solutions. There is nothing legally anybody can do or will be able to do or should be able to do to stop an athlete from taking money from a third-party source for whatever reason they want to take money from them for. That is an antitrust violation. You can have this collective bargaining over how players are paid. People, I don't know why people can't get this distinction in their head. There is a difference between what the school is paying players and what third-party boosters and endorsers are paying players, okay? What's confusing a lot of people is we have pointed out repetitively that in many times they are one and the same because the schools and the coaches talk to the boosters and say the players they want and the players they want them to spend money on. What's not being discussed, though, is there's no legal way to stop that money coming in. There is a legal way to regulate the actual employment and pay that the schools directly pay the players. There's no legal way to regulate what third-party boosters are paying players. You can complain, you can cry, you can say it's destroying college sports, but it is anti-capitalist, anti-free market, and antitrust to regulate that on the open market. There is nothing they can do. The House settlement is trying to set up this enforcement mechanism they tried to set up this enforcement mechanism where boosters have to prove that this endorsement is an actual endorsement and not pay for play. How do you prove that? How do you prove that? You're allowed to endorse whatever the heck you want. Okay? No other endorser or advertiser has to do that. A lot of radio stations, a lot of stations in general have advertisers for commercials that lose money on the deal. They lose money because they still want to support the cause, so they don't mind losing money because they like the content that's being produced. That's pay for broadcast, basically. Pay for play, whatever you want to call it. They're not getting a return. No one steps in and says, well, you got to prove you're making money on that return. Why should that be for athletes? This is absolutely insane, and it drives me crazy. And I mean, it's just, and Adam has a great point. Imagine if you couldn't hire a consultant to help your business improve because competitors claim it's unfair. You're right. And there is no level of regulation that you can put on this or that you should put on this. So everybody talking about athletes collective bargaining, that's not going to address the point. The point is boosters throwing money at players. Texas Tech just threw a bunch of money at players. The funny enough, the Texas Tech booster that did that is now asking Trump he's the one who asked him to step in and put in this executive order that has no teeth. It has no teeth because there's nothing legally anybody can do about it. And it's funny. Basically what he's saying is, government, please save me from myself. Please stop me from having to spend this much money to buy a championship. That's what he's really saying, okay? There's nothing you can do to protect boosters and endorsers from themselves unless you pass legislation that will not be passed. What the H is brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Designs.
Having been in the jewelry industry for a long time in the Knoxville community, I saw a need for a jeweler, a real jeweler.
Our ability to do these designs has really been based on the customers bringing new things in and challenging us as a store. Our goal is not to tell anybody what they want. Our goal is to listen to what they want and then help them get there.
Schedule your consultation today to get your special someone the perfect custom gift just in time for the holidays.
General Ursus says the problem isn't players getting paid. The problem is nobody had a plan in place when they decided to make it legal. This is just getting old. Just get rid of it and all go back to paying them under the table. You are right, General Ursus. They should have had a plan. The NCAA should have had a plan on this years ago, and they should have figured something out before it got to this, because now they're just going to lose every case. But General Ursus, the problem isn't the lack of plan. That you're right. The problem is the lack of plan. But the real problem is just NIL, in the sense of the real problem is third-party boosters can pay people for whatever they want to pay them for. And guess what? You legally can't stop that. There's nothing legally you can do to step in and say third-party boosters can't pay these players to do whatever they want. You can do it in certain ways. You can do it like things like gambling on the sport. You can prove if someone's paying you to gamble on the sport, yeah, gambling on the sport is its own problems. But what you can't prove is, you know, if they're paying you to play, they are allowed to do that. That is totally legal, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Now, Sam Scrock says they are trying to avoid what has happened in the MLB with the Dodgers and Yankees just outspending everyone. It's not fun for the sport. But Sam, here's the thing you're missing. You're right, they are. But the Dodgers and Yankees are outspending everyone by paying them direct salaries. There can be revenue sharing on what the schools directly pay the players. You can't in any way regulate what the third-party boosters want to pay the players. They can claim it as an endorsement. They can sit up there all day and be like, this is an endorsement. And they don't have to make a return on an endorsement. People lose money on endorsements and investments all the time. So you can't really stop this. There's no way to really regulate it. And that's the problem they're having. So I got to be honest with you guys. This is a real honest issue for college sports, and I don't think they can fix it. They may think they can fix it. They have no path to fix this, and you're just going to have to accept that the markets and the floodgates are open, and they will be open for the rest of time. And truth be told, so what? Let them be open. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think this is great for the sport overall. I don't mind the negotiations. No one really cares once it comes to Saturday. Once it comes to Saturday and you're between the lines, people are just like, can this guy get me a first down on 4th and 1? That's how fans think. Everybody is on a fake soapbox otherwise. And quite honestly, I don't really care to hear it because I think it's massive overreaction. But that's just my thoughts. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. We broadcast live from the Ted Russell Ford Lincoln studio every weekday at 10 a.m. Eastern. Ted Russell Ford Lincoln is your home for the finest vehicles in Knoxville, new and used. East Tennessee's largest Ford and Lincoln volume dealer. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell, turn on your notifications, tell a friend. We're building something great here at Off the Hook Sports. Want you to be a part of it with Caleb Calhoun. This has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. You guys have a great